palace has just issued this statement.
In a crowded courtroom, something happened that no one expected. Queen Camilla, who has always stayed calm and strong, suddenly started crying. The reason? Diana's sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, had just shared shocking new evidence. This wasn't just any evidence. It was information that could change everything. The royal family, which had seemed perfect from the outside, suddenly looked very different. As the details were revealed, everyone in the room sat in complete silence, unsure of what would happen next. The truth, something many had kept hidden for years, was finally coming out. It was clear that nothing would ever be the same again. With every piece of new information, the tension grew, and it became harder to believe that the royal family's perfect image could ever be fixed. What came next would leave the world stunned. The storm that's been brewing for decades, some stories never really end. They just stay quiet, waiting for the right moment to return. And this story, between Princess Diana, Queen Camilla, and the royal family, is one of those. To understand what happened in the courtroom today, we need to go back to the very beginning. When Diana married Prince Charles in 1981, the world watched in awe. She was young, beautiful, and full of hope. To many, she was the picture of a fairy tale princess. But behind palace walls, the truth was very different. Long before Diana, there was Camilla. Charles and Camilla had been close for years. Even after Charles married Diana, their relationship never truly ended. Diana felt it. She knew it. And the pain of that knowledge stayed with her for years. In 1995, Diana sat down for a television interview that changed everything. Calm and soft-spoken, she looked straight at the camera and said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." It was a single sentence, but it echoed around the world. With that line, Diana pulled back the curtain on royal life and showed everyone the heartbreak she had been hiding. That interview made headlines, but more than that, it made people listen. Diana became known as the people's princess, someone who spoke from the heart, someone who hurt just like everyone else. Her honesty touched millions. Her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, were still very young at the time. But even then, they saw what their mother went through. They saw her sadness. They saw the loneliness. And after she passed away in 1997, that pain didn't disappear. It stayed with them. Over the years, both William and Harry have spoken openly about how much their mother meant to them. They've worked to protect her memory, to make sure she isn't forgotten. For them, this isn't just history. It's personal. Now, decades later, that pain has resurfaced in a way no one expected. A new court case has brought the past back into the spotlight. What started as a quiet investigation has turned into something far more serious. And at the center of it all, once again, is Queen Camilla. What led Camilla to court? The case began with whispers, small details, unconfirmed reports. At first, it seemed like nothing more than old rumors returning. But then new information came forward, information that couldn't be ignored. Someone from inside the royal circle, someone who had stayed silent for years, finally spoke out. They claimed there were letters, audio recordings, and personal documents that showed how Princess Diana had been treated during her time in the royal family. More specifically, these records suggested there had been a quiet but deliberate effort to control how Diana was seen by the public. According to the source, some of the people involved wanted Diana to appear unstable, emotional, difficult, even unfit for royal life. And the name that appeared more than once? Camilla. The documents didn't accuse her of causing harm directly, but they suggested that she may have been part of conversations meant to protect her own image, conversations that came at Diana's expense. Once this information became known, legal teams got involved. Investigators looked at the materials, and eventually, the court agreed there was enough evidence to move forward. A formal hearing was scheduled. Queen Camilla was named in the case. That alone was shocking. For years, she had managed to avoid direct involvement in controversies like this. But now she was being asked to face difficult questions under the full light of the law. Inside the palace, there was clear concern. Efforts were made to handle the matter privately. Meetings were held. Lawyers spoke on her behalf. But none of it stopped the legal process. The case was too serious. The documents too detailed. So despite everything, Camilla had to appear. Not in royal regalia, not on a palace balcony, but in a courtroom, where titles didn't matter, and truth was the only crown that counted. William and Harry take the stand and shake the monarchy. When Prince William and Prince Harry entered the courtroom, there was no royal ceremony, no grand entrance, just two sons, walking quietly, ready to speak about their mother. Prince William took the stand first. He was calm, steady, and clear. His voice didn't shake, but you could feel the emotion in every word. He spoke about Diana not as a public figure, but as a mother. He described how hard she tried to stay strong for them, even when things inside the palace were falling apart. At one point, William said, "We owe it to our mother. She never stopped loving us, even when she felt like the world turned its back on her. Now, we must speak for her." He didn't accuse anyone directly. That wasn't his way. But the message was clear. His mother had suffered, and someone needed to take responsibility for that. Then came Prince Harry. His approach was different. More emotional, more direct. He didn't hold back. Harry spoke about how his mother was followed, how her words were twisted, how she was left alone when she needed support the most. He talked about the pain she carried and the nights she cried behind closed doors. He said, "They tried to silence her. They made her feel like she was the problem, but she was only telling the truth." Then came the real turning point. Evidence was presented. Letters written by Princess Diana herself. Handwritten, honest, and full of emotion. In one letter, Diana wrote that she didn't feel safe. That there were people around Charles who saw her as a threat. She didn't name names, but the suggestions were clear. Another note described how her image was being torn apart. That stories were being planted. That someone was trying to paint her as unstable. Not because it was true, but because it served a purpose. These letters were followed by recordings, short audio clips where Diana described the pressure she was under, how alone she felt, how she feared that even her own words could be used against her. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Camilla. She didn't speak. She didn't interrupt. But her reaction said everything. The crown cracks. Camilla's most vulnerable moment. Queen Camilla is known for keeping her emotions in check. She rarely shows weakness in public. But in that courtroom, all of that changed. As Diana's words filled the room, spoken through letters and recordings, Camilla's face turned pale. She looked down, her lips pressed together tightly. A tissue appeared in her hand. People who were there said she seemed deeply shaken. At one point, she appeared to wipe her eyes. Another witness said she looked as if she might faint. This wasn't the Camilla the public was used to seeing. This was someone who seemed lost, vulnerable, perhaps even full of regret. No one knows exactly what was going through her mind, but it was clear that the words spoken that day had hit their mark. For years, Camilla has lived with the title of Queen Consort. But in that moment, she wasn't a queen. She was simply a woman, facing memories she might have hoped would never return. Her legal team tried to comfort her. They asked for breaks. They requested that certain pieces of evidence be skipped or edited. But it was too late. The truth was already in the room, and no one could ignore it. The image of Camilla leaving the courtroom, silent, tired, and tear-streaked, is one that those present say they will never forget. Not because she was broken, but because for the first time, she seemed fully human. As the court drama unfolds, the consequences of this shocking revelation are far from over. The world will be watching closely as more secrets come to light. Will this mark the beginning of a new chapter for the royal family, or the end of an era? Only time will tell.
I can't mimic voices for love or money. I'm completely hopeless at it. I was a really bad actor at school, and
In a stunning development that has sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace, Tom Parker Bowles, son of Queen Camilla, has been sentenced in a case cloaked in unprecedented secrecy. The ruling, delivered behind closed doors and mysteriously absent from public court records, has resulted in his immediate removal from public life. Palace officials have imposed an extraordinary information blackout, but our sources have uncovered the disturbing reality behind his sudden disappearance. What could the Queen's son have done to warrant such severe consequences? And why has the royal family gone to extreme lengths to keep it hidden? Stay tuned, because this revelation will forever change how you view the British monarchy. The Secret Tribunal. On what appeared to be an ordinary Tuesday morning, Tom Parker Bowles arrived at a nondescript government building in London's diplomatic quarter. Unlike the high-profile court appearances of celebrities or politicians, there were no press photographers, no waiting crowds, just an unmarked entrance guarded by individuals who carried no visible identification, but moved with unmistakable military precision. Dressed in a conservative gray suit with no distinctive features, Tom was escorted through a private entrance and vanished from public view. A food critic and author who had carefully balanced his royal connections with an independent career, his expression betrayed no emotion as the doors closed behind him. Inside awaited what one source described as a tribunal rather than a court. The small windowless room contained only essential personnel: a panel of 3 judges with specialized security clearance, legal representatives who identified themselves only by last name, and a defense team that our sources claim had been appointed rather than selected by Tom himself. This wasn't a legal proceeding as the public would understand it, revealed a source with connections to diplomatic security protocols. This was risk containment operating under the thinnest veneer of judicial process. The charges, while never formally announced, allegedly centered around unauthorized communications with foreign entities, specifically, individuals connected to both international media organizations and foreign intelligence services. According to our sources, Tom had been under surveillance for months after certain patterns of communication raised red flags within royal security circles. It began with his legitimate food writing contacts, explained a former colleague who requested anonymity. But somewhere along the line, he began exchanging information that went far beyond culinary matters. Information about palace operations, security protocols, and most damaging of all, private communications between senior royals regarding matters of state. What made this case particularly sensitive was the nature of the information involved. Unlike typical royal scandals centered around personal indiscretions, the material Tom allegedly shared touched on the monarchy's relationship with government, the constitutional gray area where royal influence intersects with political power. During the 7-hour proceeding, Tom reportedly maintained the composed demeanor that had characterized his public life. He spoke only when directly addressed by the tribunal, neither confirming nor denying specific allegations. Those present described his bearing as resigned rather than defiant, the demeanor of someone who understood the institutional machinery he faced. The ruling, when delivered late that afternoon, was extraordinary in both scope and severity. While not termed imprisonment in any conventional sense, the sentence mandated Tom's immediate sequestration at an undisclosed location, with no access to communication devices, publication platforms, or unapproved visitors. The official terminology, protective isolation for reasons of national security, barely concealed the reality: permanent removal from public life. As Tom was escorted from the room through a secure exit, he reportedly made a single statement to the senior security official overseeing the operation: "Tell my mother I understand the necessity." This phrase, cryptic to those unfamiliar with royal dynamics, has been interpreted by insiders as acknowledgement of the monarchy's ultimate priority: institutional survival above individual interests, even when family is involved. Within hours, he had been transported from London via military aircraft, his destination known only to a handful of officials with the highest security clearances. The containment operation. The palace's official statement, released the following morning, made no reference to any proceedings. It simply announced that Tom Parker Bowles would be stepping back from public duties indefinitely to address private health matters and requested privacy. The brevity and vagueness only intensified speculation among royal observers. Behind the scenes, an elaborate operation was already underway, not just to manage Tom's physical removal, but to systematically erase evidence of his activities. Teams with specialized training in digital forensics simultaneously accessed his London apartment, office, and country home. Computers were seized, mobile devices confiscated, and physical documents removed. But the operation extended far beyond simple evidence gathering. This wasn't just about collecting materials, revealed a source with knowledge of security protocols. This was about eliminating all digital footprints, scrubbing communication records, and creating an alternative narrative about his absence that could withstand public scrutiny. Most telling was the treatment of his professional workspace. According to witnesses, the office where Tom wrote his food columns and books was not simply searched, but methodically dismantled. Digital storage devices were removed. Reference materials were cataloged and transported to secure facilities. Even seemingly innocuous items like notebooks and appointment calendars were treated as sensitive materials requiring special handling. The thoroughness suggested not just concern about what he might have already shared, but fear about what channels of communication he might have established that remained undiscovered. There was serious concern about dead drops, scheduled information releases, or material already positioned with publishers overseas, explained a former intelligence officer familiar with such operations. When someone with his connections commits to sharing sensitive information, the ripple effects can continue long after they've been contained. This fear drove the next phase of the operation, identifying and neutralizing potential associates. Editors who had worked with Tom found themselves subject to unusual scrutiny. Publishers reported subtle pressure to delay or cancel projects involving him. The pattern revealed a coordinated effort to isolate anyone who might have served as his conduit to the wider world. Digital traces began disappearing as well. His social media accounts were either suspended or suddenly managed with notably different content and tone. Archives of television appearances where he had discussed royal connections became mysteriously unavailable on streaming platforms. Even photographs in which he appeared at royal-adjacent events were quietly removed from official sources and media libraries. Most concerning to those tracking the situation was the treatment of his published work. His most recent food columns disappeared from publication archives. Bookstores reported receiving requests to return unsold copies of his latest cookbook for a corrected edition that never arrived. The systematic removal of his professional output suggested concerns that extended beyond personal indiscretion to something embedded in his public work. The concern wasn't just what he knew, but how he might have encoded that knowledge in his published writing, suggested a literary analyst who had studied similar cases of writers under government scrutiny in other countries. Food writing provides remarkable cover for transmitting information through seemingly innocent references. Ingredients can be code names. Preparation techniques can signify methods of operation. Restaurant locations can indicate meeting points. The royal family fractures. Behind palace walls, Tom's sentence reportedly created the most significant family crisis since Prince Andrew's fall from grace. Queen Camilla, caught between maternal instinct and institutional duty, was described by insiders as outwardly stoic, but inwardly devastated. According to sources familiar with palace operations, she was informed of the action against her son only hours before it occurred, presented not as a request for her approval, but as a security necessity already in motion. Camilla was effectively told, rather than consulted, said one palace source. This wasn't a mother being asked about her son's fate. This was a queen being briefed on an operation affecting the monarchy's security. King Charles, meanwhile, allegedly maintained a more detached position. Sources suggest he viewed Tom's actions through an institutional lens rather than a personal one, as a security breach requiring containment rather than a family matter requiring compassion. This perspective has reportedly created tension in the royal marriage, with moments of strained silence replacing their usually warm rapport. The king sees monarchy as his life's purpose, explained a longtime royal advisor. Threats to its stability override personal considerations, even when family is involved. Camilla hasn't yet developed that institutional callousness that royal life eventually demands. Prince William has reportedly supported the action, viewing it as regrettable but necessary for protecting the monarchy's future. According to palace insiders, he was among those briefed on specific communications intercepted from Tom and recognized their potential to undermine public confidence in royal neutrality on political matters, a cornerstone of the modern monarchy's survival. Most surprisingly, Princess Anne, known for her dedication to duty and protocol, has allegedly questioned the handling of the situation. Sources claim she has expressed concern about the precedent of removing a royal-adjacent figure through extrajudicial means, suggesting that, once we operate outside the law, we undermine the very system we claim to uphold. For Tom's sister, Laura Lopes, the situation has allegedly triggered profound distress. Unlike her brother, Laura has maintained an intensely private life despite her royal connections. Sources close to her family report that she has made repeated requests to contact her brother, all of which have been denied citing security protocols. Laura is essentially being told that any attempt to reach her brother could implicate her as well, revealed one source. It's a cruel but effective method of ensuring family compliance, the implicit threat that concern could be interpreted as complicity. For Queen Camilla herself, the situation has created an impossible position. Sources describe a woman torn between institutional obligation and maternal anguish, permitted no direct communication with her son since the sentencing. All information about his welfare and circumstances comes through official briefings provided by the same security apparatus that engineered his removal. In public, she performs flawlessly, noted one senior household member. In private, the strain shows in small ways. Moments of distraction, unusual irritability, the occasional canceled engagement citing mild indisposition. She's grieving while having to pretend nothing significant has happened.
I'm 75 now, and I can't remember anybody except the Queen being there.
Behind the grand walls of Queen Camilla's estate, a surprising discovery has just been made. The FBI found something unexpected, something that has everyone talking. It wasn't a part of their plan, but now it's raising big questions. What could be hidden in a place so closely watched? Why did the FBI need to look there in the first place? This discovery isn't just about a famous person. It's about secrets that could change how people see the royal family. The peaceful image of the palace now has a shadow hanging over it, and no one knows what might happen next. As more details come out, the mystery grows deeper, and the line between what we think we know and what is really true starts to blur. Why is the FBI involved? Now, this is the first question everyone is asking. Why is the FBI, an American agency, even looking into something that happened at Queen Camilla's estate? It sounds crazy, right? But once you hear why, it starts making a lot more sense. Sources say the reason is because this case might not just be a simple matter happening inside the UK. There are possible signs that this whole thing involves crimes that stretch across different countries. That means the crime doesn't stop at the royal estate's gates. It could involve things like money laundering, international fraud, or even cyber crimes. And if any of these crimes link back to American citizens or companies, then yes, the FBI has every right to jump in. There's also talk that the FBI is working hand in hand with the UK's National Crime Agency, also known as the NCA. Now, this is not the first time these two powerful agencies have worked together. Whenever things get messy and international, both countries' top crime fighters join forces. That's what seems to be happening here. But the fact that the FBI is digging into royal matters? Yeah, that's what's making the world stop and stare. But what really brought the FBI here? That part is still a mystery. Some reports suggest a whistleblower stepped forward. Maybe it was a staff member, someone who worked inside the estate, or someone who saw something they just couldn't ignore anymore. Other reports say there were leaked documents, secret papers, hidden emails, or financial records that suddenly appeared and raised a whole lot of questions. And believe it or not, the FBI does sometimes investigate powerful people in other countries. They've looked into politicians, business tycoons, and even royalty-related cases before. So, while it's rare, it's not impossible. But seeing the FBI involved in the British royal family's business is something no one expected. What was discovered? All right, now let's get into the part everyone's waiting for. What did the FBI and NCA actually find? Let me tell you, the reports are shocking. Sources say during their search, investigators stumbled upon financial documents that were hidden away. And we're not talking about some old bills or shopping receipts. These documents are believed to show connections to secret offshore accounts. Now, if you don't know what that means, offshore accounts are usually bank accounts in foreign countries where people hide their money. Why? So they don't have to pay taxes or answer tough questions. The question now is, why would anyone in the royal family need offshore accounts? And how much money are we talking about here? Some people are whispering that it could involve millions, maybe even billions of dollars, but that's not where it ends. Investigators also found rare artwork and expensive jewelry hidden inside the estate. And here's the kicker. Some of these items might actually be stolen or belong to other countries. There are even rumors that a few pieces were supposed to be in museums, not locked away in some secret royal room. If that turns out to be true, it could spark huge international fights over who owns what. What's even crazier is that reports claim the FBI found encrypted hard drives. That means the data on those drives is locked up tight. Super secure, like in the movies. They also discovered secret safes and even hidden rooms that most people didn't even know existed. And here's where it gets really wild. Some leaks suggest those encrypted files might contain secret communications, messages with people who are already being investigated in the US. Can you imagine what's in those files? Private deals? Dark secrets? Maybe even conversations that could destroy reputations forever. Of course, all this has turned the internet into a complete circus. Theories are flying left and right. Some people say there are royal secrets buried so deep that if they come out, it could bring down the whole monarchy. Others think it might be connected to old scandals that are about to resurface. But here's the thing. None of this is fully confirmed yet. Most of these details come from leaks and rumors. Still, that hasn't stopped the media from going wild. Headlines are popping up everywhere, and the story is getting bigger. Every single hour. Impact on the royal family. As expected, the royal family's reaction so far has been complete silence. Not a word from Queen Camilla, nothing from King Charles, and absolutely no official statement from Buckingham Palace. But sometimes, silence is louder than words. And right now, that silence is making everyone even more suspicious. The British press is going crazy over this. Every single news channel and tabloid is covering the story. Reporters are camped out in front of Camilla's estate, hoping to catch even the smallest glimpse of what's going on inside. And let's not forget, Queen Camilla has always been a controversial figure. Ever since her relationship with King Charles went public, she's faced heavy criticism. People have called her names, blamed her for the breakdown of Charles and Princess Diana's marriage, and questioned her place in the royal family. Now, just when things were finally settling down for her, this happens. If these discoveries turn out to be true, it could destroy Camilla's reputation completely. And it won't stop with her. The whole royal family could suffer. People are already asking, could this hurt King Charles's reign? Could it be the final straw that breaks the public's trust in the monarchy? After all, the royal family is supposed to stand for tradition, honor, and duty. Scandals like this could make people question why the monarchy even exists anymore. Global and political implications. And it doesn't stop there. This whole mess could also turn into a massive political problem, not just for the UK, but for the United States too. Think about it. The FBI is investigating Queen Camilla. That's huge. What happens if the US finds evidence that forces them to take action? Do they arrest someone from the royal family? Do they drag them into court? And how does the UK respond to that? There's already talk that this could lead to serious diplomatic trouble. Politicians on both sides are scrambling, trying to figure out how to handle this without turning it into an international disaster. The UK Parliament might even get involved. Some members are already calling for investigations. Others are demanding answers. And it's not just the UK. Other countries are watching this very closely. Because if one royal family is hiding things, maybe others are too. This could open the door for global investigations into royal finances. Who knows what else might come crawling out once people start digging. Possible scenarios and theories. Now let's talk about the theories, because trust me, there are plenty. And some of them sound like something straight out of a Hollywood movie. The first theory that's blowing up online is that this could be linked to massive blackmail rings. The kind of thing we saw with Jeffrey Epstein. People are whispering that maybe, just maybe, there are connections between the royal family and powerful people hiding dark secrets. Another theory is that this is all about money laundering, that maybe royal estates like Camilla's are being used to clean dirty money. If that's true, it could explain the offshore accounts and the hidden art and jewelry. Then there's the theory that someone planted all this evidence, maybe enemies of the crown, people who hate the royal family, staged the whole thing just to destroy their reputation. It wouldn't be the first time powerful people were set up. And of course, there's always the chance that this is just one big misunderstanding. Maybe the documents were fake. Maybe the jewelry was legally owned. Maybe the media took a small story and blew it up into something huge. Honestly, it's hard to know what's real right now. The internet is full of rumors, and everyone's got their own theory. What do you think? Could it be blackmail?
Thursday marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in a car crash inside a Paris tunnel.
For years, people have wondered what really happened to Princess Diana. Some believed it was just a tragic accident, but others thought there was a secret behind it. Now, something unbelievable has happened. Queen Camilla has been sentenced for Diana's death. How did it come to this? What will happen to the royal family now? The truth has finally come out, and nothing will ever be the same again. How Camilla became a suspect. For years, people have whispered, argued, and even shouted about Camilla's role in Diana's tragic story. Was she really just the other woman? Or was there something more? Let's go back to where it all started. Camilla and Charles go way back, before Diana was even in the picture. They met in the early 1970s and fell in love, but for one reason or another, Charles didn't marry her. Instead, he ended up with Diana, a young, beautiful, and innocent woman who seemed perfect for the role of a princess. But there was a problem. Charles never really got over Camilla. Even after marrying Diana, Charles kept Camilla close. Too close. Diana wasn't stupid. She saw what was happening. Imagine being married to a man who secretly loves someone else. That's what Diana had to live with. And she didn't just stay silent about it. In 1995, she sat down for one of the most famous interviews in history. Looking straight at the camera, she said the words that would be remembered forever. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Boom. Just like that, the world knew the truth. Diana was suffering, and Camilla was the reason. People turned against Camilla instantly. Even after Diana's tragic death in 1997, Camilla was still seen as the villain. When she finally married Charles in 2005, many people refused to accept her. Some still blame her for Diana's pain, and now, with new evidence coming to light, some believe she played a role in Diana's death itself. But how did she go from being a disliked woman to a murder suspect? Let's talk about it. New evidence that sparked investigation. For years, the case of Diana's death was considered closed. The official story was that she died in a tragic car crash in Paris, caused by a drunk driver trying to escape the paparazzi. But was that really all there was to it? Recently, something changed. New documents were leaked. Documents that, according to insiders, were never meant to be seen by the public. These papers hinted at a bigger plot behind Diana's death, something much darker than an accident. But that's not all. Some former royal staff members, who had stayed quiet for decades, finally spoke up. One witness, whose name hasn't been revealed yet for security reasons, claimed that Diana feared for her life before she died. She allegedly told her closest friends that she believed someone was planning to get rid of her. And guess what? She even wrote a letter predicting that she would die in a car crash. That's chilling, isn't it? But here's where Camilla comes in. According to these leaked documents and witness accounts, there were people within the royal circle who saw Diana as a problem. She was too popular, too powerful, and, most importantly, she wasn't afraid to speak the truth. This made her dangerous, especially to those who wanted Charles and Camilla to eventually be together without any obstacles. Now think about it. If you were Camilla and you knew your path to becoming queen was being blocked by a woman the whole world adored, how would you feel? Some believe Camilla didn't just wait for fate to remove Diana. She helped make it happen. But is that really true? Why the case was reopened. For years, people who questioned Diana's death were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. But when so many people believe something, can they all be wrong? The pressure to reopen the case had been growing for a long time. With the new evidence coming to light, authorities had no choice but to take another look. The big question was, if Diana's death wasn't an accident, then who was behind it? And if there was a plan to eliminate her, how deep did it go? Investigators started pulling old records, re-examining statements, and questioning people who had stayed silent for years. One thing became clear. There were too many loose ends in Diana's death. Too many strange coincidences. And the more they dug, the more Camilla's name started popping up. At first, many thought this was crazy. Why would Camilla, of all people, be involved? But then, when the leaked documents suggested that Diana had warned about a plot against her, people started listening. Diana had mentioned a woman close to Charles, who might have had a reason to see her gone. Could she have been talking about Camilla? The legal pressure leading to Camilla's involvement. As investigators gathered more evidence, the royal family stayed silent. They didn't want to comment on rumors. But behind palace walls, something was happening. Lawyers were being called. Meetings were being held. There was a real fear that this case could turn into the biggest royal scandal in history. And when the police officially announced they were looking into Camilla as a person of interest, the world went crazy. Imagine that. A queen being investigated for the murder of another queen. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it was really happening. Camilla, the woman who had spent decades trying to win over the British public, was now at the center of a criminal case. Some sources claim that when she first heard about the investigation, she laughed it off. She thought it was ridiculous. But as days went by and more evidence came out, she stopped laughing. She reportedly became paranoid, avoiding public events and staying behind palace doors as much as possible. And then came the breaking point. One of the former royal staff members who had been close to Diana was brought in for questioning. What they said has not been fully revealed yet, but insiders claim it was something huge, something that directly linked Camilla to the case. Whatever it was enough to push investigators to take the next step. Charges and key accusations. The prosecution wasted no time. They made it clear from the very beginning. They believed Camilla was involved in Diana's death. But how? What proof did they have? First, they talked about motive. Why would Camilla want Diana gone? Well, everyone knows about the love triangle. Diana herself had said it. There were 3 of us in this marriage. Camilla was always there in the background, waiting. But was she just waiting, or did she take matters into her own hands? Then came the real bombshell. The prosecution claimed they had evidence linking Camilla to people who might have had a hand in Diana's accident. They brought up secret phone calls, hidden meetings, and even documents that suggested Camilla knew more than she ever admitted. But here's the real kicker. The prosecution hinted that Camilla may have been working with powerful people. People with influence, money, and the ability to make things disappear. Could this mean the royal family itself was involved? Was there a hidden network protecting her all these years? The courtroom was silent. People were hanging on to every word. Was Camilla just a woman in love, or was she part of something much darker? Camilla's defense. Then it was time for Camilla's lawyers to speak. They had one job, to convince everyone that Camilla was innocent. But how do you fight against years of rumors, conspiracy theories, and a public that never really liked you in the first place? Camilla sat still, her face pale, as her lawyers argued that she had nothing to do with Diana's death. They said it was absurd. They pointed out that Camilla wasn't even in the country when Diana died. How could she have planned something so big? Then they played the sympathy card. Camilla was a victim too, they said. The public had hated her for years. She had suffered. She had been called names, blamed for ruining Charles and Diana's marriage, and now she was being accused of something even worse. They painted her as a woman who had simply fallen in love with the wrong man at the wrong time. And then came the biggest moment. Did Camilla herself speak? Did she take the stand? Yes, she did. She stood up, hands shaking slightly. and looked straight at the jury. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I did not kill Diana. I had nothing to do with her death." But then came the twist. She didn't stop there. She turned the blame elsewhere. She suggested that if there was a conspiracy, then she wasn't the one pulling the strings. Someone else was. But who? Was she hinting at the royal family? The government? Someone even bigger? People whispered among themselves. What did she mean? Was she telling the truth? Or was she just trying to save herself? Shocking testimonies. And then, the trial took another shocking turn. Witnesses started coming forward. Some of them had never spoken before. Others had been ignored for years. But now they had the world's attention. One former royal staff member claimed they had seen strange meetings between Camilla and people linked to British intelligence. They had overheard conversations about Diana being a problem. A driver who worked for the royal family revealed something even darker. He claimed that the night Diana died, there was already talk inside the palace about what had happened, before the news had even broken. How could they have known so soon? Unless they had expected it? And then came the biggest shock of all. A former security officer, someone who had worked closely with Charles and Camilla, took the stand. He looked nervous, wiping sweat from his forehead. He took a deep breath and then said it. "I was told to keep quiet. I was told Diana's accident wasn't an accident." Gasps filled the courtroom. Even Camilla's lawyers looked shaken. Who told him to keep quiet? Why? The judge called for order, but the damage was done. The jury had heard everything. The world had heard everything. Final verdict and sentencing. The courtroom waited. Hours passed. People outside were glued to their screens. What would happen? Would Camilla walk free? Or would this be the day justice was finally served? Then, the jury returned. The room held its breath. The judge asked the foreman to read the verdict. Guilty. The word echoed through the room. Camilla blinked as if she hadn't heard it. Guilty? Number that couldn't be right. The judge began to speak. He talked about the seriousness of the crime, the need for justice, and then finally he gave the sentence. Life in prison. The room exploded. Some people cheered, others gasped. Reporters rushed outside to break the news. Queen Camilla, now just Camilla Parker Bowles again, had been sentenced to life. And then came her reaction. At first, she sat frozen. Her face turned red, her hands clenched into fists. Then, suddenly, she stood up and shouted, "This is a setup! I didn't do anything." She turned to Charles, who was sitting nearby, his face pale and expressionless. "Say something. Tell them." But Charles didn't move. He just stared ahead, like he wasn't really there. Camilla tried again. She begged, she screamed, but no one listened. The guards moved in, grabbing her arms. She fought, but it was no use. They led her away, her voice still echoing through the room. And just like that, it was over. But was it? Because as Camilla was taken out, the questions still remained. Was she really the mastermind? Or was she just a piece in a much bigger game? And if she was, then who was still out there, hiding in the shadows? So, what happens next? Camilla has just been sentenced. The entire world is in shock, and now the big question is, where does she go from here? Camilla's fate. Now, let's be real. Camilla is not the kind of person to just sit back and say, "Oh well, I guess I'll go to prison now." She has spent decades climbing her way to the top. She went from being the most hated woman in Britain to the queen of the country. Do you really think she will give up that easily? Camilla still has powerful friends, expensive lawyers, and, most importantly, King Charles himself. He has spent years defending her, making the public accept her, and trying to erase the memory of Princess Diana. Would he just stand there and let her rot in jail? Absolutely not. So, of course, the first thing Camilla will do is appeal. Her lawyers will argue that the trial was unfair, that the evidence wasn't strong enough, and that she was targeted because of who she is. They might even say that the case was nothing but a conspiracy to bring down the monarchy. But here's the problem. Appeals take time. A long, long time. While the process is happening, Camilla will have to wait. And no, she won't be waiting in her fancy palace. She will be in prison. Well, Camilla won't be thrown into just any regular prison. She won't be sitting in a tiny cell with 10 other women. She is still the queen consort, and whether people like it or not, she has special status. This means she will likely be sent to a high-security prison for VIPs, where she will have her own cell, some level of protection, and probably more comfort than an average prisoner. One possible location is HMP Bronzefield, the UK's most high-profile women's prison. It has housed some of the most dangerous female criminals in Britain, but it also has private cells for high-profile inmates. Camilla would likely have limited contact with other prisoners for safety reasons, but make no mistake, prison is still prison. There are no royal servants, no fancy dinners, no designer dresses, just a small room, a metal bed, and a life completely controlled by prison rules. Can you imagine Camilla waking up to the sound of prison guards, eating simple food off a plastic tray, and having no access to luxury? Would she even be able to survive it? And then there's another question. How will the public react to seeing a queen in prison? Would people feel bad for her? Or would they celebrate, saying justice has finally been served for Diana? The monarchy's future. Now, here's where things take a dark turn for the royal family. Because this isn't just about Camilla. This is about King Charles too. Think about it. His wife has just been convicted for being involved in the death of Princess Diana. His entire reputation is now hanging by a thread. People are furious. The media is going crazy. Protests are breaking out in the streets. And the big question on everyone's mind is, can King Charles stay on the throne after this? For years, there were already people who didn't want Charles to be king. Many believed the throne should have gone straight to Prince William after Queen Elizabeth's death. Charles was never as popular as his mother, and now, with this scandal, his rule is in serious danger. The British monarchy survives on public support. If the people lose faith, the system starts to fall apart. And let's be honest, after this trial, how many people will still support him? The Queen was loved because she stayed away from scandals. Charles, on the other hand, is now right in the middle of one of the biggest royal scandals of all time. Some experts believe that he will try to hold on to the throne, hoping the public will eventually move on. But others think he might be forced to step down, either because of public pressure, or even because of a decision made within the royal family itself. And if Charles steps down, who takes over? Prince William. Will this scandal lead to the end of the monarchy? Now, this is the biggest question of them all. Could this be the final nail in the coffin for the British royal family? We have to remember, the monarchy has already been struggling. Younger generations are losing interest. Many people feel like the royal family is outdated, unnecessary, and a waste of taxpayer money. But this could push things over the edge. For decades, people have suspected that Diana's death wasn't an accident. Now, with Camilla's sentencing, many will see this as proof that something dark has always been lurking within the royal family. And when the public loses trust, it's very hard to get it back. Imagine this. Millions of people demanding the monarchy be abolished. Protests outside Buckingham Palace. Governments debating whether to cut off funding to the royals. Could we really see the end of the monarchy in our lifetime? One thing is for sure. After this scandal, the royal family will never be the same again. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Camilla deserves this sentence? Will Charles survive the backlash, or is his reign doomed? And most importantly, do you believe this could be the beginning of the end for the British royal family? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you don't want to miss the next update on this insane royal scandal, subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when I drop a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
We're going to turn now to the future Queen consort, Camilla. She's given a rare interview about her life with Prince Charles and how she has learned to cope with criticism.
Queen Camilla wasn't always married to King Charles. Before she became part of the royal family, she was married to a man named Andrew Parker Bowles. At first, their marriage seemed happy, but something happened that changed everything. It wasn't a small problem. It was something so big that Andrew decided to leave her for good. One day, a secret came out, a truth that couldn't be ignored. And when Andrew found out, he didn't hesitate. He made a decision that would change not only their lives, but also the future of the royal family. What really happened between them? Why did he leave so suddenly? The answer might not be what people expect. Camilla and Andrew's relationship history. Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles had what seemed like a picture-perfect love story. They were both well-connected, belonged to the same elite social circles, and had a relationship that lasted for years before they finally tied the knot. But despite their grand wedding and long marriage, their relationship was far from perfect. The shocking part? The reason Andrew Parker Bowles divorced Camilla wasn't just another failing marriage. It was something much bigger. To understand why he left her after 21 years, we need to go back to the very beginning. Camilla Shand met Andrew Parker Bowles in the 1960s when they were both young, attractive, and part of Britain's high society. Camilla, the daughter of a wealthy British Army officer, was well known for her charm and wit. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly win people over. She wasn't a traditional beauty, but she had a confidence and energy that made her irresistible. Andrew Parker Bowles was the perfect match for someone like Camilla, at least on paper. He was a dashing British Army officer with an impressive career ahead of him. He was well-liked, confident, and extremely well-connected. In fact, he was so well-connected that he had previously dated Princess Anne, Prince Charles's sister. Camilla and Andrew's relationship was intense but complicated. They were on and off for years. Sometimes they were together, sometimes they weren't. Andrew, known for being a ladies' man, was frequently unfaithful. But despite his wandering eye, Camilla always seemed to forgive him. Eventually, after years of uncertainty, they got engaged. In 1973, they had a grand wedding, attended by many members of high society, including the royal family. On the surface, it looked like a perfect love story. Camilla had finally settled down with a respectable man, and their marriage was expected to last forever. But behind the scenes, things were very different. Camilla was still in love with someone else, someone who was about to change the course of her life forever. Camilla's ties to Prince Charles. While Camilla was in an on-again, off-again relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles, she had also formed a deep connection with Prince Charles. They first met in 1970 at a polo match, and from the moment they started talking, there was an undeniable spark between them. Prince Charles, the heir to the British throne, was immediately drawn to Camilla. Unlike many of the women in his social circle, she was confident, funny, and down to earth. She wasn't intimidated by him, and she treated him like a normal person rather than the future King of England. They quickly became close, and it didn't take long for them to fall in love. But there was one big problem. Camilla was not considered suitable to marry the future king. At the time, the royal family expected Charles to marry someone young, pure, and with no romantic history. Camilla, who had already dated other men, didn't fit that image. Heartbroken, Charles eventually had to move on, and so did Camilla. She married Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973, and Charles continued his royal duties. But Charles never truly got over Camilla. Even after marrying Lady Diana Spencer in 1981, his feelings for Camilla remained strong. Diana, who was young and inexperienced when she married Charles, quickly realized that she was competing with another woman for her husband's love. In one of her most famous interviews, Diana painfully admitted, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded."
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Meanwhile, Camilla's marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles was not a happy one either. Andrew continued to have affairs, and over time, Camilla began to grow closer to Charles again. What started as an old friendship soon turned into something more, something that would eventually shake the British monarchy to its core. The turning point: why Andrew Parker Bowles divorced Camilla. By the 1980s, it was no secret among their inner circles that both Camilla and Andrew were having affairs. Their marriage had become more of a formality than a true partnership. However, despite their failing relationship, they remained married for years. Then came the event that changed everything. In 1993, a private phone call between Prince Charles and Camilla was leaked to the public. This phone call, later known as the Camillagate scandal, revealed intimate details about their relationship. The conversation, which had been recorded in 1989, was deeply personal and embarrassing. It confirmed what many had suspected for years. Camilla and Charles had been having an affair all along. The scandal sent shockwaves through Britain. People were furious. Camilla became the most hated woman in the country. The media had a field day, portraying her as the woman who destroyed Diana's marriage. Newspapers called her a homewrecker, and TV shows mocked her. For Andrew Parker Bowles, this was beyond humiliating. While he had tolerated Camilla's relationship with Charles for years, having their affair exposed so publicly was unbearable. He was a respected military man, and this scandal made him look like a fool. Unable to ignore the public embarrassment, Andrew Parker Bowles finally decided to end the marriage. In 1994, after 21 years together, they officially divorced. Aftermath: Camilla's life. Post-divorce. Camilla's divorce was not the end of her troubles. If anything, things got even worse for her. The media scrutiny was relentless. She was followed everywhere, criticized in newspapers, and booed by the public. At first, Camilla tried to stay out of the spotlight. She avoided public appearances and rarely spoke to the press. But despite the negative attention, her relationship with Prince Charles continued. They were still deeply in love, but they had to be careful about how they moved forward. In 1996, Charles and Diana officially divorced. A year later, in 1997, tragedy struck. Princess Diana died in a car accident in Paris. The world mourned Diana's death, and once again, Camilla became the villain in the story. People blamed her for everything that had happened. Many believed she would never be accepted as a part of the royal family. But slowly, things started to change. Over the years, Charles and Camilla carefully reintroduced their relationship to the public. They made small public appearances together, showing the world that their love was real. It wasn't easy, but eventually, people began to accept them as a couple. Camilla's transformation into queen. In 2005, after decades of controversy, Charles and Camilla finally got married. Their wedding was simple and private, not the grand royal affair that many expected. But it was an important moment. It showed that their love had survived everything. Over the years, Camilla worked hard to win the public's trust. She dedicated herself to charity work, supporting causes like domestic violence awareness and children's literacy. Slowly, public opinion started to shift. Then, in 2022, Queen Elizabeth II passed away. With her death, Charles became king, and Camilla became queen consort. It was a moment that many thought would never happen. From being the most hated woman in Britain to becoming queen, Camilla's journey was truly extraordinary. Today, Queen Camilla stands beside King Charles, fulfilling her royal duties with grace. Her story proves that life is unpredictable. Love, no matter how complicated, has a way of surviving against all odds. And that's the story of how Queen Camilla's first marriage came to an unexpected end. A moment that changed everything, not just for her, but for the entire royal family. What do you think about Andrew Parker Bowles' decision?